Does anyone have a question?
Stuart,
Hi.
I have a
Well, let her go first. Yeah, Aileen, go ahead.
Thank you. It's about the ego, because every day I thought that was my identity, but now I can see that's like a false identity. So I feel like that separation. So how can I start like detaching from ego? Like dissolving the ego.
Listen, what you just expressed, Aileen, shows me that you're growing very deeply in yourself. Just coming to the realization that ego is a limitation. Ego is you setting up your own self in order to command attention, to be better than other people, and it all does nothing for your spiritual growth. All it does is create a barrier. And part of the meditation practice that we do here is getting strong enough in yourself so that you don't need that kind of identity. It's just spirit that comes through you and guides your life, not something in your mind that tells you you know better than everybody else in the world. I mean, all that's going to do is create conflict and craziness and unhappiness. But something inside you that lets go and lets this higher energy flow through and guide your life. And it will, make manifest in your life everything you need to learn to work out your karma on the earth. And ego becomes a barrier. It's a block. People that are very insecure need strong egos. Because if that ego is swept away, what's underneath it is deep insecurity that protects them. The ego protects them. So it's nonsense. What we want to live in is a state of complete openness, not having to protect ourselves, a state of love, a state of compassion, a state of kindness, all of this stuff that transcends ego, because ego has a singular purpose, and that's to create an image in your own brain that you know better than everybody else, and that you can conquer the world, you can, billions of dollars, you can be some kind of, half crazed God in your own mind. I mean, so what you're talking about is a very big step in your growth, just coming to recognize that there has to be a depth of inner work that enables you to detach yourself from the ego and to allow higher energy, God, spirit, to guide your life. And it doesn't mean you become flaky. You have to be really strong to do what I'm saying. You don't have to be terribly strong inside to to let ego determine your life. You build an image of yourself. I mean, look what Hollywood does. All those people build images of themselves. And, I've known a bunch of those kind of people, celebrities and people. And beneath it all, there was enormous insecurity, deep insecurity, afraid to be touched and to be vulnerable. I mean, it was very interesting because at one point in my life, to have those kind of people come into my life, they taught me a great deal about what I didn't want to live with. It was very interesting. So it's a matter of letting go. It's a matter of letting go. And ultimately, look, I say it 1,000 times, ultimately, we have to surrender everything anyway. And all meditation is preparation for a state of total surrender, which enables you to become one with God. You build a system inside that gives you the capacity to become one with higher energy in the universe. And you let that guide your life. I mean, before I met Rudy, I had a lot of ego, I had a lot of insecurity, I had a lot of ideas about the way I wanted to live. And then when I started doing this meditation, and that whole image of myself began to break down, I began to realize, Stuart, all you were doing was protecting yourself. Beneath all of that, you were just scared shitless of life. And even more importantly, scared shitless of death. So you had to build a wall and a barrier, that you thought would protect you from these things. And it doesn't. The only protection is openness. God is love. That's the only protection. So just have patience, because it takes time to eventually allow this ego thing to, break down and to transform itself into a much deeper way of seeing the world. It takes time. And I'll repeat it again, the only person we're up against is ourselves. Really. We are the person that manufactures ego, opinions, mind, importance, charisma, blah, 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 And we do it because beneath all that stuff, there's a huge insecurity and a fear of living and a fear of dying, fear of living openly and a fear of dying, where it all gets taken away. But when you surrender those things, there is, life and death are one and the same energy, Soul doesn't die, body dies. Soul keeps evolving. And those two energies, there's like a marriage of life and death. And we begin to realize that, that the real fear is living in this world. And when we finally overcome that fear and open in depth, life and death become, it's like a union. It's like a marriage of the two. Does Bob, you had a question?
Thank you.
This is actually very much a companion question. In your latest blog post, 100, you introduced the idea of the inner voice. Can you contrast and compare that with the voice of ego, of the mind, with the inner voice that we're trying to make contact with?
Yeah. Yeah, there is an inner voice in every human being, and problem is very few people listen to it. They know better in their heads. They avoid it. They're afraid of it. They don't listen. But that inner voice is guiding them to a deeper sense of themselves and a deeper truth about why they were born in the world and what they have to do to master themselves and master life. There's an inner voice in every human being. There's a child that exists. Yes. I hope you all read these things. Bob reads them. I send them to everyone, even Kenny. But I hope you all read these things, because some of them are, and the ones that I have, the next three, holy shit. I read them, and where do these things come from? You know, it's like a miracle manifesting. But
So
you know,
Stuart,
hmm?
how can you establish that you're listening to inner voice?
You have to stop listening to the stuff in your head. You have to stop being involved with emotional tension, insecurity, fear. You have to stop all that stuff by building a chakra system that's strong enough to do it. That's the work. And then that inner voice will ring loud and clear, and guide you. And you won't set up any defenses against it you will listen and let it guide your life. But first, you got to get free of yourself. You got to get free of all the chaos that runs rampant inside. The money problems, this problem, that problem, the relationship problems, all of that stuff, you know. You have to really build a system inside that frees you of all that stuff. And then that inner voice will come loud and clear. In fact, I tell you, in my own life, I don't listen to any other voice. That inner voice it just guides everything. I mean, I listen to the heartbeat of other human beings and the problems, and have a deep empathy with people. And that's because I can't solve those problems without listening to the inner voice. I can't solve my own problems without listening to the inner voice. And I know that in order to hear that voice, I have a meditation technique. I have a breathing exercise that enables me to build a system inside that's strong enough that I can let that inner voice guide my life. Good questions today. Does anyone else have a question? They would like to ask. Okay, if there are no more questions, it's been a very long day today. And does anyone else have a question? If no, there'll be a class on Thursday or Wednesday. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. God bless you all. And as I say after every class, you know, I am so grateful to be able to be sitting here with all of you. And I don't see myself as a teacher. I see myself here to learn and to continue to learn for the rest of my life. And I am so grateful that every one of you are part of that learning process. So God bless you all. And I hope and pray that you're all learning as much as I'm learning from what goes on here. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody on Wednesday.
Thank
Good night,
you.
Stuart. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Stuart, thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Good night.